There are a lot of games that are considered great classics. Some were revolutionary and popularized a certain genre, and others were games that had a unique style that attracted plenty of gamers. Some of these games, for some reason, have not been remade yet. Most of these games are trapped on the older generation consoles and are not backwards compatible with the modern consoles, meaning that in order to play them, you have to own the original console that the game released on to be able to play the game. So today guys, we're going to go through the games that really deserve a resurrection on the modern game. So today guys, we're going to go through the games that really deserve a resurrection on modern gaming hardware. So without further ado, let's dive into the video. In this console generation so far, we've been seeing a lot of remakes pushed out onto the new PS5 and Xbox Series X, such as Dead Space, The Last of Us and Resident Evil 4. However, some of the remakes are merely cash grabs and did not need a remake like The Last of Us, which still holds up well on the PS4 and actually still holds up on the PS3 version as well. And considering that the PS5 is backwards compatible with the PS4, there was less reason to bring The Last of Us to PS5 than bringing The Last of Us to the PS4, since the PS4 wasn't backwards compatible with the PS3. So in my opinion, The Last of Us was not ready for a remake yet. However, the other remakes, Dead Space and Resident Evil 4, have been out for nearly 2 decades and they needed a remake more than The Last of Us did. But I think we need to go further into the past and grab classics that have been out for more than 20 years and give them the remake treatment. The first that comes to my mind is the original Tomb Raider trilogy with the 1996 classic 2 and 3. These games, when they were released on the PS1, were one of a kind and revolutionized the 3D era alongside Super Mario 64 and Resident Evil. To see them remade by the use of the cutting edge technology we have today would be a dream, especially if the second and third were remade, since the first game has already been remade as Tomb Raider Anniversary, which is getting older now since it's been 16 years since it released in 2007. The Tomb Raider remakes need to recapture their respective original games' essences, something that Tomb Raider Anniversary failed to do. Anniversary oversimplified some levels. For instance, the system was crammed into Tomb of the Hoken with most parts of each level taken out. I don't want the same thing happening again, and I want to get the same feel that I got when I played Tomb Raider 2 and 3. Especially 3, which is my personal favourite, and I would be very upset if 3 gets simplified at Anniversary. I would rather in this case it be expanded or be exactly the same as the original. To be honest, 2 would be the one on Crystal Dynamics' radar as the first to be remade. 2 is the community's favourite game and could get away with the combat focused style of the reboot trilogy in my opinion, although I would not want it to stray onto the path of the reboots with a violent and gritty feel. As for the other Tomb Raider games in the classic timeline, which are Last Revelation, Chronicles and Angel of Darkness, they can get lost, as those games, even if they get remade, they won't have the same success that the original trilogy would get, especially Last Revelation, which will be the same boring game in the same locations, but just has better gameplay, mechanics and visuals. The Dino Crisis series is the other game series that needs to be remade. Dinosaurs are ever so popular nowadays, mainly due to the famous Jurassic Park movies, and dino games are also rising with games such as Exoprimal, Extinction and Ark 2 coming to the latest consoles. And Dino Crisis absolutely deserves to return, especially since Capcom has been remaking the sister franchise Resident Evil. And Dino Crisis urgently needs the remake treatment because the gameplay is largely outdated, with the camera being overhead, not too dissimilar to the older Resident Evil games and the original Metal Gear Solid. The game was also difficult and tedious to navigate since some of the parts of the facility you could not access without certain cards, again like Metal Gear Solid. There were also times where we had to backtrack from different places like the Last Revelation, and that made Dino Crisis occasionally boring to play. However, the game and its sequel Dino Crisis 2 need a remake. However, the third game should not be remade since it was a totally different game but with Dino Crisis branding. The future of Capcom is actually quite uncertain after they just remade the 4th Resident Evil, with some people thinking that they may move away from Resident Evil to remake Dino Crisis, and others think they may carry on until the 6th Resident Evil game. Either way, Dino Crisis needs to be revived, and it would be great to see the franchise in modern visuals. Also, Dino Crisis 1 and 2 need to mimic the Dead Space remake by remaining faithful to the original game. Many remakes have not remained exactly faithful to the original games, such as Tomb Raider Anniversary, which I touched upon earlier, and GoldenEye 2010. The original versions of those games were the best games of the 90s, and the remakes failed to remain faithful to the original versions. Developers and publishers should follow what EA and Motive did with Dead Space, because they literally used footage from the original 2008 game to develop the remake, and it worked out well for them. They made the remake faithful to the original source material, giving fans who played the older version nostalgia that reminded them of the original game, and at the same time it was like a game that you never played before. So Capcom needs to focus on making Dino Crisis remain faithful to the original as much as possible, while making it feel like a game that is contrastingly different, instead of completely reimagining the game and not making it stay faithful to the original source material. The Metal Gear Solid 3 remake is already reportedly in development and may release as soon as next year, but the first game should also get a remake, as it is the one that turned heads when it released in 1998 for PlayStation. This game is currently the one that is the most outdated, and as for why I think it deserves the remake treatment than 3, it is because I feel that Metal Gear Solid 1 had a more fleshed out story, and everything from the villains to the codec dialogue made the game feel more enjoyable. So to imagine if it was remade with Unreal Engine 5, I insist the game would sell like hotcakes for the modern consoles. The second game could also do with a remake, although the HD edition still looks remarkable. But the game has been since tracked on PS3 and Xbox 360. However, with the 360 version you could at least play the game on the Xbox One and Series X for backwards compatibility. But the PS4 and PS5 can't play PS3 games, so the second game is only on Xbox for now. The other Metal Gear game that could get the remake treatment is Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots. Although it would be a task to get the 4th game from the PS3, meaning that Konami would have to do the 4th game from scratch, so I would not be surprised if Konami chooses to skip the 4th game. The other game franchise that deserves to be remade is the Siphon Filter series, developed by Eidetic, now known as Bend Studio, who is famous for Days Gone. The Siphon Filter franchise began in 1999 for the original PlayStation and ended on the PSP in 2007. So considering that it's a Sony franchise, then it would make sense if Bend Studio nudges Sony to remake them. The first Siphon Filter had you play as a special agent known as Gabe Logan to take down a German terrorist who triggers outbreaks with a biological weapon known as Siphon Filter. The game and its sequels enjoyed some success until the Omega strain, where it wasn't as well received due to Gabe Logan no longer being the player character. That eventually changed when Dark Mirror came out for PSP and later the PS2. Then Logan's Shadow came out for PSP and PS2 in 2007, with the PS2 version only being available in the US. Since then, Siphon Filter has been a dormant franchise, although Sony did choose to bring most of the Siphon Filter games onto PS4 and PS5 as part of the PS Plus premium subscription, although you can actually buy them without the subscription and treat them like normal PS4 and PS5 games. So far, the first 3 Siphon Filters and Dark Mirror are available, but there is no clear sign of Logan's Shadow or Omega Strain appearing yet. Either way, the games are still in their original state with no improved gameplay, controls or graphics, so it would be nice for Sony and Bend to remake the Siphon Filter games by taking inspiration from Metal Gear Solid 5 Phantom Pain and Splinter Cell Blacklist, 2 games which have brilliant combination of stealth and all-out action gameplay. But we all know how Sony has refused to listen to requests to revive franchises. For example, Sony has refused to revive Killzone and Resistance despite a huge number of PlayStation gamers begging Sony to remake or reboot them. so don't get your hopes up for it to happen anytime soon. Fallout 3 also deserves the remake treatment. The Fallout series is very renowned for its open world and gameplay, and while Fallout 5 is likely going to be many years away, in the interim, Bethesda should at least hire someone good at remaking to bring Fallout 3 to modern standards, and by taking inspiration from Fallout 4 in terms of gameplay, it could be the definitive version of the Fallout series. The game has been trapped on PS3 and Xbox 360, although thanks to Microsoft we've been able to play it on the Xbox One and Series X and S. Fallout 3 hasn't aged particularly well either, meaning that compared to other games on the PS3 and Xbox 360, it looks rather outdated. Fallout New Vegas is also long overdue for a remake, and with Obsidian and Bethesda both under Microsoft, that could potentially happen. And like Fallout 3 in my opinion, it hasn't aged well either, and needs a makeover too. Fallout New Vegas is loved for its story and deep dive into lore, and what I like about it is how it is basically a post-apocalyptic western, since you're actually in the Mojave Desert, a major part of the Old West. The additional things from Fallout 4, such as settlement building and more extensive crafting, would make Fallout 3 and New Vegas feel brand new, and the remakes would get everyone going and would likely build a huge hype train. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please hit the like button if you haven't already, and subscribe and smash the bell button if you want to see more videos like these. This is the way!